Hey, welcome. Did I scare you?
Yes.
Hey, everyone, welcome. I just scared Dave with my abrupt hey. Welcome to No Quitting the Home Team, Season 3, Episode 11, 2025 edition.
2025, here we come.
We're back.
Here we are.
Mm-hmm. After a little break.
Yeah, we had to give Dave and Renee a month or so.
Yeah, I needed a little breather.
They needed to
after that last one.
Yeah, boy, can we talk about that? That was
It was a
doozy. We've had some. It's not my marriage, and I've had people coming to me saying, "Hey, were Dave and Renee okay after that?"
We've had some concern.
Yeah. What's crazy about after last episode, both before and after recording, we had a spectacular weekend. And yet, we did learn a little bit of something about our friends. I had a lot of people reach out. Half were concerned. Hey, you guys are doing okay? The other half of you people were like, that was the best episode you ever did.
Yeah.
Thanks. Let's have some more of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if these people are concerned or if they're just have their popcorn out.
Right.
Excited.
A little of both.
Yeah.
I genuinely, I will say, and we talked about this off the air, but there is something refreshing to not even speaking to the content of the episode, but the tone and how candid it was, frankly. I think there was something refreshing in that people can go, oh, okay, they've got their stuff too. Mm-hmm. And they very clearly love each other and have been married for almost 25 years. So there's also like, I think it might be okay that we're not always okay and that there's these things that, still get in our craw, but also you can still have a thriving, loving, healthy marriage in the midst of disagreeing with the other person on something, even at what clearly by last episode feels like maybe it's a fundamental core thing.
Yeah.
Core values for both of you that feel challenged by the other.
And there's still a lot of emotion behind it. And a lot of discontent behind it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think did we read this or have I heard this where if you agree on everything, one of you's irrelevant?
Right.
Yeah. One of you's being a
that's
doormat.
like real marriage stuff.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
real marriage.
Right.
Yeah. So
I do have to say, Dave has been a lot better. I'm not kidding.
So maybe there was a little bit of conviction.
I don't know.
Following.
I mean, infer, glean from that comment what you will.
Is that conscious or subconscious, Dave?
no, no, it's totally conscious. I'm not going to pretend like I don't know if that made any impact. I know.
It's been noticeable. I mean, it's been not insignificant. The difference.
Yeah. Some things got communicated.
Yeah, hey, and
you didn't even have to give spouse advice.
Yeah. Well.
And that's part of what we talked about. Like sometimes the benefit is recommunicating things and also affirming when those expectations are met. So congratulations. Great work.
This is
guys.
probably terrible. This is terrible marriage advice.
Go on.
But
This is not under things we've learned thus far.
but it did make me think of, remember when Will was little? And Will, our oldest, is such a funny kid. But
Sweet man.
Sweet man.
stubborn, and strong-willed, appropriately named. And I remember him saying to you, because he was doing something, and finally we were like, Will, stop it. And we had to yell.
And then I felt bad and was
And
like,
it felt bad.
I'm so sorry I yelled at you.
Yeah.
Please.
And then what did he say to you?
He said, hey, Mom, it's okay. Sometimes you just have to yell at me or I don't listen to you.
And he's like, sometimes you just have to yell at me.
Sometimes
and it was like, and it communicated. Now, again, I don't think that's...
Don't yell at your kids.
Don't yell at your kids or your husband. But anyway... Things have been greater on that.
Sometimes we just have to have a good row on the podcast.
Yep. We messed around and had a real row, and then. But what's crazy is that we did have a great weekend. So, anyway, So are we supposed to say how we're doing?
We should probably catch up. Otherwise,
but we have entitled this episode about last time.
About last time.
About last time.
Yeah.
So we might unpack aspects of it throughout the episode.
Sometimes pointed conversations can also be a bid for affection.
And, that's what you call a post-mortem. It's like it's good to sort of evaluate what happened here and what did we learn. And so, yeah. So how's everyone doing?
Jesse, I'm dying to hear how you're doing. I haven't seen you in a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute. We, all right. The 30,000 feet view. One of our children has had a real intense few months.
Oh, no.
And it's confirmed some suspicions that we have. And so we are going to begin meeting with an occupational therapist to help him get tools, to help us get tools.
To regulate
better. And there's a whole slew of other things that come with this, but it will functionally be a little bit of a lifestyle change for us to accommodate his needs, because a lot of it's involuntary on his part. And so the best thing we can do to care for him is to change the things that we can for his sake. And there will certainly be some inconvenience there, but we are glad to do it. And there's some challenges that will certainly arise. And the thing we keep coming back to, because this all kind of came to a head on New Year's Eve. We were visiting with friends at a place that he's very comfortable and has been 100 other times, and the entire night completely devolved. And we went home and we finally got him to fall asleep, and through tears, Shell and I are trying to figure out, what do we do? Like, how do we help him? And in that moment, I said, there's probably going to be some hard decisions we have to make, but ultimately the thing I do know is that he's our kid for a reason, and we're his parents for a reason. Like, he has us and we have him, and that's not an accident. So regardless of what needs to happen, how we move forward from here, we're in it together. And so that's kind of been dominating our lives for the last month and a half, 2 months. So we're working through all of that, but it's really good. We've had some very sweet time as a family. The boys are back in school, which is helpful because there's fewer disruptions to their kind of normal rhythms. A lot of really cool stuff happening here at FDC. North Metro's getting a building, and we're launching this weekly prayer room that we'll be doing Wednesday morning. So there's a lot of cool movement happening here. So that's been my life the last.
That's a lot. Is there grief or is there relief? Like, hey, it's not just this like hovering, unspoken. What is it? What isn't it?
Yeah. I'll say it depends. It's vacillated between the two, because there's moments where we're, as with anything, you kind of grieve what feels like a loss of agency. And again, when you're talking about making sacrifices to any number of things in your life, there can be what feels like grief for a moment at least, and that is quickly overcome by, yes, but now, like, we can call this thing what it is, and we can help him, and we can help him help himself, and, so I will say there have been little moments of grief, but for the most part, it has been a tremendous sense of relief that we have. There's a very clear path forward for us and for him. So we're very thankful, and we love our boy. We love both our boys, but one of them has been impacted by this certainly, but not to the same degree.
It's a lot.
So God is good. I love my family. We're in a good spot.
Yeah, good.
So yeah, that light stuff out of the way. What about you guys?
I think for me, the break was critical. Like the Christmas, New Year's, like it's for church world, kind of the between that week, there is some time where the offices are closed and we actually get some time off. Now, of course, Sunday is every Sunday. And so there's always some work that is to be done. But being able just to have multiple days in a row where you don't have to do anything. Renee, how many bubble baths did I take during that?
A lot.
just reading, taking a bubble bath while reading is just the best thing ever.
Yeah, it really is the week and a half that we both of us actually get to relax of the year, of the whole year.
Yeah.
I spent 2 days and read one book and really didn't move.
And sat in that little crook in the
in the couch.
in the couch and
Yeah, it was. That part is just something we don't do.
yeah. No, that was restorative for Christmas. I know everyone sort of always gives warnings and bemoans sort of how materialistic Christmas has become. But our boys for the first year gave gifts to us.
That's so fun.
Mm-hmm. Unsolicited.
Gave.
Everyone in our family gave everyone else thoughtful gifts.
And it was so great.
It was sweet.
And I have like hoodies. I have a Buddy Hield Oklahoma University basketball jersey that my middle son bought for me. And is it appropriate for me at my age to wear a basketball, to sport a jersey? Maybe, but I'm sporting that thing.
It has not stopped you.
Yeah, and I'm wearing everything they got me because I love it. So it was good for the soul to be with family and extended time of not having to do anything.
Yeah.
So when I think of how I'm doing, I think I'm just really reaping some fruit from that season.
Yeah.
It was brief, but man, it was good.
Yeah.
How about you, honey?
I think same, but we're on the other side of that. I think for me, there's just always a lot of sadness in January. Mm-hmm. I think because the holidays are over, and there's just so much, almost too many events and buzz and fun and excitement, and then it's just all over. And I think the weather here in Colorado, it was like incredible, almost like through Christmas Day, and it has been a polar vortex since. Although today's nice, but we're
getting one brief day of
one
respite
day, yeah,
before
until it's -15 this weekend.
Exactly.
So I think going into January, I'm always just a little sad. Sad it's over. Our college son was here. It was so fun. I was a wreck when we took him to the airport, which I'm not usually that much of a wreck. Am I?
When Will leaves.
Every time I'm
Yes.
that bad? Gosh. And then the next day I'm fine. But it was, oof.
I cried after I drop him off at the airport. I cried driving home. And
The
by
whole
the time
way?
I'm home, just off and on. And by the time I'm home, I'm like, I'm okay. And
Yeah.
then that's it.
I couldn't go this time. I usually,
We're bad for each other on that.
we are.
You see me cry. I see you cry. And
Yeah.
Chain reaction.
We make
Yep.
it worse.
And then you just kind of get back into the grind quickly without there's not a ton to look forward to in January. Mm-mm. Other than just, I don't know, day in and day out.
Yeah, January I feel like it's like the fresh start, New Year's resolution, and so there's some, I think for some like optimism with January. And
But we don't really do resolutions like that. We don't do drastic things.
No, but we do. I always make some annual goals, and
I just feel like we don't ever
starty.
the energy and effort required in these drastic. I'm going to do whole 50 or whatever that the things
Whole
that
30.
whole 30. The things that require that requires
Major
so
lifestyle change. Yeah,
so
we
much
don't do
energy and so much focus, and we never really do those. So maybe I should, and then it would give me something to focus on. But it's not. We're in the swing of it. It's mid-January. It's January 16th. What else was I? Yeah, we're fine. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Back to work. Back to getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
The grind.
The grind.
The here's a cup of coffee, and we don't even say anything. We just sit in the dark.
We have found a fun. I don't know if I should. Maybe we should recommend it. No, we found a fun show to binge in January. That's
that
been
is
fun.
true. Yes.
That's been like a fun. So Will.
Come on.
Okay, you probably have seen it, Jesse.
Likely.
Will got a subscription to a service that we don't have access to for 1 month.
Apple TV.
Max.
Oh.
So can you guess what we were binging?
No, you guys.
Okay. Yeah. So he's like, "Hey, there's some good stuff on here," and we looked, and there was a show that there's 4 seasons, and the first one came out in 2012 or something.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
And there's a long time between seasons.
Maybe. Yeah.
So we started it, and it, guys, disclaimer. It is not for.
It's a hard R.
It's a Max show.
Yes. True Detective.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen it?
Of course I've seen it.
It's fantastic.
Season 1 of True Detective might be my favorite thing of television of all time.
Yeah. Season 2. So we binged all of season 1. Mm-hmm. We binged season 2. People really panned it. We liked it.
The reason I think it got panned so aggressively is people were comparing it to season 1 and not treating it as its own thing. I think it rewatches better than people experienced it the first time, but you're right. People panned it pretty aggressively. It's still excellent television.
It's kind of interesting, watching these shows after everyone in the world has already watched them years ago.
Off. Yeah.
And then, so even in the office today, I bring it up, and I'm like, season 2 is kind of cool, whatever. And then it was like a firestorm broke out in the office, like, this is trash television, and here's why. So, but clearly I had walked into an old debate that I knew not of because I never watched it. So I just totally.
Yeah. So then we jumped because the most recent season was released in 2024 and won a lot of Golden Globes.
And we only have 1 month.
We only have 1 month. So we're like, we
membership.
want to make sure we get that one in. So we skipped season 3 and jumped to Night Country.
Yeah.
Which I thought it was such a bizarre setting. I thought it was fantastic.
Did you guys finish all of Night Country?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
disappointed.
Now,
thoroughly disappointed.
Should we do are people still watching that? Should we do
no, it came, the final.
I'm not giving any spoilers here.
Okay.
I will say I was thoroughly intrigued and bought in
to the last episode?
To the first episode of Night Country. And it was basically downhill every episode after that, to the point of me almost not finishing the finale. I was so frustrated with it. My issue was almost exclusively with the writing. I thought it was shot well. I thought
such an interesting setting.
I loved the setting.
Yeah.
I love the idea of here's a month of dark. Yeah. What's gonna happen? And they did such a good job of hooking you in with the premiere. And I thought that the writing was measurably worse every episode. And I've finished the finale so that I could say that I had. And at the end of it was like, well, I won't be rewatching that. Yeah. So I know that mine is not the end all be all opinion. And there are many people who thoroughly enjoyed it. And I really, really, really wanted to love it to the end, but every answer to a plot point left me frustrated. So that was me. But again,
but anyway, we're gonna finish it because we started.
Yeah.
So you
should watch season 3.
We are. We
just started it
two nights ago.
Yeah.
So that's been fun because then it's something where it's like, hey, do you want to watch the episode? And it's like,
yeah.
And then Beckett will come in and he's like, are you watching your show? And we're like, yeah. And he's like, turn around and walk out.
See ya, buddy.
So anyway, that's a lot. Yeah, I think we're doing well. It's a big year for us in a lot of ways. So I think that feels significant and like I should be reflective. It's a big birthday for me. It's our 25th wedding anniversary.
It's a big birthday for you, Renee?
It is. It is a big birthday.
25 years of marriage.
Yeah.
So
You were 25 when you got married.
Yep.
somehow only turning 35
I know.
this year. It's shocking how
I
that
know.
works.
Ian's graduating. It just feels like a monumental year.
It's a big year ahead of us.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on.
Cool. All right, what we've learned so far. Here's one thing that came up, and something we've learned both experientially, but then also with spending time with other couples, is here's what we've learned. When in doubt, ask for advice. Just ask for advice.
Unpack that.
Well, if you do this as like a social experiment, people out there, if you ask someone for their advice on something, just watch them light up. People generally are excited to offer any like wisdom or experience that they've had, and are usually pretty liberal with it. Like they're happy to give it away freely, and they're usually happy to do it. And so when you're married and you either have a difficult issue you're trying to resolve, or if there's some like problem that's popped up related to family life, so many people, and I think because of shame and a lot of other reasons, we tend to keep that stuff to ourselves. We are typically pretty we hold back on telling people about, hey, here's the thing. What do you think we should do? Or what do you think is the right pathway forward? We just don't generally ask people directly for their advice.
I think people share what's going on, but maybe not.
But they don't ask for advice.
Right. Like, what do you think I should do?
Right. People want to tell like they want to be seen and understood. That's important to be known. But I think taking the step forward to say, what advice would you give me on this? Now.
Yeah. And I think we're in a place culturally because I've been in spaces where there's an emphasis on listening and hearing and validating, right?
Yes.
So I think in the past, where in those spaces, people would just naturally offer unsolicited advice. Whereas I think now, I've been in spaces where I'm just like, because the only thing you can do, and the only thing that's acceptable is to go, right. Like it's not socially acceptable to offer unsolicited advice. So, but we're not in the habit of then saying, after sharing, hey, what do you think I should do?
Right.
Whereas before, I think people would just say what they thought you should do.
Right. That would be, it would be an assumption there. But now I think we've reached sort of this tipping point where I think there needs to be a greater curiosity. And like, we have abundant resources in our community and wisdom, where if you're going through something, it very well may be that person who you who you talk to every day, or you pass their house and see them on their porch, they may very well have meaningful and important insight for you, but you're going to have to solicit it. You're going to have to ask for it.
Is this an extension of our conversations about the book Bad Therapy? The adult version? Kind of?
No, I didn't have that in my mind, but I think
because that book talks a lot about collective wisdom and like not professionalizing all advice,
not
but listening
dismissing
your
the
aunt
wisdom
or
of
your grandma or your neighbor or.
I think Abigail Schreier's pointing to that, a similar sort of phenomenon that we experience just in our community,
like rediscovering just the wisdom of the people around you, collective wisdom.
Yes, and it's for marriage stuff. It's for any stuff of life. So I was even thinking, Jesse and I, we have a long Thursday. We start our Thursdays together, men's Bible study, bright and early. And we have a room filled with 35 dudes in there, many of whom are retired. But a lot of guys who are young, and a lot of us are just figuring it out. And this morning it just kind of hit me as I'm looking at these guys, like, for those of you who have big questions of life and even questions about vocation and whatever, you don't actually have to go very far, probably, to get the kind of wisdom insight you need. He's probably sitting at your table right now.
Look across the table.
Yeah. And on Sundays at church, if I'm preaching or doing the welcome or whatever, sometimes I look out, and because of my position of being a counselor, pastoral counselor, and I know a lot of what's happening, sometimes I do think to myself, like, there are such abundant resources of wisdom that we have right here, right in front of us. And the only thing that's preventing us from enjoying, from getting the nourishment that comes from that, is asking. So hey,
honey, what do you think I should do long-term vocational fulfillment?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Hey, if you guys remember one of the first episodes we ever did on this podcast in season 1, there was a whole lot of time spent going like, well, Will's about to go to college and Renee's having an existential crisis about what the rest of her life is going to look like. What should I do? Should I go back to work? Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I did.
Yes. So anyway, that's what we've learned so far.
That's good, honey. I like that.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, we're going to switch to article talk, and we're going to mix it up a little bit. We previewed an article that we're not going to do today because we actually, a listener sent us an article that really helped both of us after last episode. So the article, you absolutely should read it if you have access to the Atlantic. And it's called Am I Doomed to Be a Tradwife by Olga Kazan. And why don't you kind of start to kind of summarize what they talk about?
In it, she references...
First of all, should we unpack Tradwife?
I was going to say, not everyone here is on Reddit.
Yeah.
So what's a Tradwife?
Instagram. So Tradwife is this trend. I didn't know it was a Reddit thing. I thought it was like an Instagram thing, an influencer
Definitely started on Reddit.
Okay.
Yep.
To where women are... wholeheartedly embracing it. Almost feels like a 50s or a throwback view of roles as a wife and a mother. So in dress, in language, in skills, so you do everything homemade. You would never work outside the home. You serve your husband. You dress very conservatively, right? Am I summarizing this well?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a whole lifestyle that then they sort of sell. So it's only homemade bread, and you milk the cows, and you make your kids clothes homemade, and you sew everything, and you make homemade soap, and yeah. So,
which that term was new to me. So I hadn't heard that or wasn't really aware of that particular.
Yeah, I think there's a
trend.
Utah mom, Ballerina Farms. Is that it? I think it's Ballerina. It has millions of
Don't
followers.
pretend like you don't know, Jesse.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying to be gracious. And
is it not Ballerina Farms?
No. I'm saying I'm just trying to be gracious of this movement because I think that there's Yeah. No,
But I think she's an Instagrammer who has millions of followers. And she posts every day. And so anyway, that's what they're referring to in the title of the article.
Got
Am
you.
I doomed to be a tradwife?
Got you.
An extreme version of I don't know if it's conservative. I don't even know, throwback motherhood.
I think you'd have.
Yeah, I mean the trad is traditional, right?
Yeah.
So it's like there's this understanding that it's like a kind of returning to the way that things were done, or at least
on the prairie almost. It almost
I
feels
mean,
like on the prairie.
and genuinely like the way things were. It's all kind of like pre-50s, right? Pre-free love movement, all that. And so the idea being that the free love movement and the sexual revolution kind of ruined femininity and started subverting all of these things that women were supposed to be doing. And now you have this theoretical return to the way it ought to be, which is, a perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, basically what she's like, is this doomed to happen despite all advances? And she talks a lot about the book we reviewed, Fair Play by Eve Rodsky, of how she and her husband really tried to enact this system
of fair play where you are given cards that have every imaginable kind of domestic household duty and responsibility you could imagine, like 100 of them. And then you divvy out the cards, and how you divvy them out doesn't have to be even, but the idea is for it to be fair.
Equitable,
fair, not necessarily even. And
there's all this criteria of like the effectiveness of the chore, and like it's a kind of a complicated system.
Yeah.
So basically she's like, we did this and it doesn't work because he just wouldn't do the card, or so she's like, is this just a genetic inevitability that women are going to do? It's sort of it was sort of a rebuttal to our previous discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this just an inevitability? But this is, and she talked about her mom who was an immigrant to the United States from a different culture. And she was telling her mom what they were doing. And her mom's response was, well, that's ridiculous. No man's going to do that from their culture. That was her mother's response. So then she was sort of examining this expectation of domestic equality from a cross-cultural standpoint. And she's like, are we just ridiculous? And so she kind of talks at length sort of about this attempt that they had to make sharing and domestic chores equal in their relationship.
And she said, she notes a lot of studies that I didn't know existed about fair play, and how there are certain contexts in which it has worked out well, but it does require, it's a very like selective kind of type of couple that it can work with.
Yeah. So their son's name is Evan. So I want to read this. So she has she's a funny writer. She has some fantastic lines. She says, instead, our strategy is not one that Rodsky would like. I bark out orders, and Rich kind of, sort of, sometimes fulfills them, most of the time. He doesn't understand Evan's needs the way I do, and it would be way too hard for me to explain them constantly to him. I'm pickier and cleaner than he is, and it will probably always be this way. Rodsky referred to this kind of thinking as me being complicit in my own oppression. I call it trying to get our kid to middle school in one piece. Which I think that this is the reality. This is a well-articulated reality of what we were fighting about,
right?
In some ways,
right. Quote where she ends.
Well, we'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there. No,
it's the journey, Dave.
I'm creating the tension.
Yeah. So in the article, she's going kind of back and forth because she has these. There are cultural values that she has, where, of course, she doesn't want to be a tradwife. Mm-hmm. Of course, and she's using that term tradwife, but there are tropes of wifely responsibility that she doesn't want, that she doesn't desire for herself. Now, how much of that has been conditioned by the culture and sort of our cultural context and all of that, I think she acknowledges all of that. But then she also wants to have, she wants to be married, mm-hmm. and she wants to have a meaningful relationship with the actual husband that she has. And so she's battling back and forth with that, which in a really, I think, in a way that I think a lot of people would resonate with.
She says, but I am willing to live this way. I'm not getting divorced because there's too much work to do, and it would be way harder to get divorced than to stay in this. Right now, a helper is worse than a co-pilot, but it's better than nothing. And well, when we're not screaming at each other about Clorox wipes, we do actually like each other. Yeah, I just think it's a better articulation of the tension. And instead of really clear cut, it either has to be a completely equal. I don't know. I don't know how to explain the two extremes that she seems to straddle better.
I think I would be surprised if she doesn't have a follow-up article that explores like some of these themes she hit on. She just has like a sentence, and I think it will. I bet you she'll have a follow-up with it, and if she does, then we'll.
Yeah, and the part, Dave, you really like is when she says, this is the last paragraph. There's another element to it, though. During the at the very beginning of the article, she talks about this scenario when their kid is sick, and the husband, Rich, drew the card that was supposed to procure backup care if their care fell through, which he didn't do. So their kid is sick. They both need to go to work. And she's like, well, what are we doing for backup childcare? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, but you have the card. And he didn't do it. So then she kind of returns to that scenario. And she said, there's another element to this, though. During the frightening, feverish week, I spent hours swabbing Evan's forehead with a cold washcloth, and because it hurt his ears to nurse, giving him sips of breast milk from a cup, his first ever drink from something other than a bottle. I had to admit that part of me liked cuddling him and easing his distress, even if it was technically Rich's turn to be on duty. It was mental, emotional, and physical labor that didn't pay, and I, on some level, enjoyed it. It wasn't fair, it wasn't equal, but life rarely is.
And I think I think that's powerfully written. The impression I got, and I think she doesn't use this language, but there is an inevitable, to have a meaningful relationship and marriage, there is inevitable sacrifice.
Yeah.
Of giving up of what is rightfully yours and something that you wouldn't have to do, but now I do it. Not because I'm going to get some payback from it, on some leisure is going to even out later, but I'm going to give up of myself for your benefit, for the benefit of the child, and kind of full stop. And she's kind of describing when she did that, there was joy that emerged, and she's grappling for language to describe that.
Yeah. And she describes that experience from her perspective, and I'm sure her husband has the same experience of doing something he didn't want to do.
Right.
And maybe a similar joy. He has a funny line in there. What's his line? When asked Rich for comment. She's very like frank about sort of some of his husbandly responsibilities, and sometimes, she's describing their marriage in reality. She said, when reached out to comment, Rich called the article very good.
And I just thought to myself, well done, Rich.
He called the article very good.
Well done. That is exactly right.
So I think for us, it's like, it's messy, and we're not going to come up with a perfect scenario where both people feel completely 100% validated and personally enriched all the time.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
So read it. It's a good article.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Doomed to be a Tradwife. What's her name?
Olga
Kazan.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All right, so that's all we're doing for article. We had a different article for today, but we thought we found this really helpful, especially on the heels of our previous discussion. So check that out. Next week, we're going to talk about family dinners.
Okay, now it's time for some spouse advice, where Renee and I take turns giving the opposite gendered spouses out there advice that might be helpful for their marriage. And if Renee and I actually hear each other saying this, maybe there's some benefit there, maybe not. But just
Certainly not the motivation of this
it
segment.
isn't the motivation. We're just trying to help. We're just trying to help the opposite gendered spouses out there.
Yeah, and this one actually could go either way.
Oh.
I think it could be for husbands, for me, and it could also be for you to wives. And it's kind of funny. I hope you don't mind sharing this. Dave doesn't know what I'm about to say. He looks a little nervous.
No, I'm totally fine.
So I think something we do with our kids can also be very helpful with our spouse. So something...
Now I kind of am nervous all of a sudden. I have no idea.
I think sometimes when you're raising kids, this is not just Dave and I, but I think parents in general often will, if your kid is interested in something, you take an interest in it, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm Do you know what I'm gonna say?
I think
Okay.
so, yeah.
So, like if your kid is like, even if you don't like sports, he's a huge Nuggets fan. You're like, hey, I'll go to the Nuggets game, and you'll watch a game, and you'll do some research. And so I think you guys, I mean, we've talked about this enough that I had like 2 years of like medical issues that produced severe anemia, to where like, so if you have no iron for 2 years, some physical things happen. So my hair got really thin, and I have a lot of hair generally, and it got really thin, and then I had surgery and fixed that problem. And I was like, oh, and the doctor was like, hey, everything will kind of return back to normal. It just takes some time. So I'm not a huge person for supplements and like natural remedies and things, but I'm open to whatever. So a friend who is a fantastic functional medicine doctor suggested I take this supplement that is supposed to help with like hair growth, but also, supplements other things for this time of life or whatever. So I started taking this supplement, and Dave would joke because there's a men's version.
Do you want to tell people what it is? You should just tell people what it is, right?
Oh, I don't know. I don't feel like it's advertisement.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Whatever. I mean, they can email me if you want to know.
You're not being compensated for this product.
Yeah. So
review.
I started, which I've never taken. I don't take anything. So I started taking this, and I felt better. I felt like it was really noticeable. I've probably been taking it for almost a year. Mm-hmm. Surgery was last April. So started last April. So coming up on a year. And Dave would just joke like, hey, I think I want to take that, the men's version. And I thought he was kidding. But he kept saying it like maybe that'd be good for me to do. But I think
see you taking that every morning, and I'm like,
so for
I want some of that.
Christmas, kind of as a joke, I got it for him. But I think underlying all of it is just like taking a step into something I'm doing and trying it and being interested in it. And I think that's really, I think as you get older, you don't do that as much. You kind of have your thing and they have their thing. And just to take a step of interest and investment and curiosity into something your spouse is doing, like, I don't know, they listen to that kind of music, or like, hey, I downloaded that kind of music, and what do you think about this? It's sweet, and it feels like an attempt to be in, I mean, as strange as that sounds, like this world of like, I'm taking this supplement or whatever. So now Dave's like, I'm feeling really good.
I'm feeling vital. Let those with ears come here. I'm feeling good over here.
Supplements aside, I just think it's. I wouldn't have thought like to take an interest in something that I normally wouldn't if it's something you like and are interested in and are doing.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's my advice.
Oh, that's sweet. That's a fun one.
That is a fun one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, next up, hot and cold. What are we hot on? What are we cold on?
Jesse, do you have anything? I have one, but it's kind of short.
I do, and mine's also really short, so maybe we can just both go.
Okay.
Wait, you're both going to say Bo Nix.
Neither of us is going to say Bo Nix.
All right. Which, by the way, when I found out that Renee was going to the Broncos game with one of her sons instead of Dave, I thought surely there is no justice in this world because she's going to get to watch Bo Nix absolutely ball out and have nothing but meh. That's fine. He's fine.
Jesse, Dave gave us those tickets
I
for
know.
Christmas.
I know.
And we gave Ian a Bo Nix jersey, so he wore a Bo
He
Nix
wore
jersey.
it. Yeah,
It's amazing.
It was so fun.
No, this is not about me and Dave being Bo Nix truthers. I got some sad news about 2 hours ago, guys.
What?
One of my favorite filmmakers of all time passed away today, David Lynch.
I heard that too.
So I'm cold on that.
Cold on death? You're cold on death?
I'm cold on people that I look up to creatively dying. Super lame. But I'm now going to go home and rewatch Twin Peaks because David Lynch was a phenomenal artist. So very thankful for his work. Cold on his death, hot on his legacy.
What else did he do?
How
long do I have?
I was gonna say I'll pull up the stuff you would probably know while you tell us what you are hot/cold on.
I'm hot on, as you guys probably know, neither of us are CPAs or accountants, and so there are times that we've struggled with budgeting and tracking and all of the logistics around financial health and dealing with. So we've tried a number of systems over the years. We're not big, huge spenders, so we can kind of be okay. But then your kids start doing all this stuff and it just adds up quick. So we've attempted different budgeting apps or different systems over the years and nothing really stuck. And after the first of the year, we got turned on to this one, and it is phenomenal. And now I'm a budgeting app proselytizer, and
which isn't really us.
It's not us, and it takes something pretty darn good and intuitive for it to work for us. And it's so good, guys. It's so good. So if you're looking for something, we needed something that did everything. We needed something that watched our investments, that gave us categories, that we could budget, that we could track our spending easily and quickly and intuitively and all the things. And it has been so good. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And we share it. And so we are able to look at it together and both make needed adjustments from the app on our individual phones
very quickly.
It's been good. Now it took a while to get set up.
It takes a little investment on the front end.
We took a fair amount of time researching.
We did. Which budgeting app
we watched
to try?
videos.
We did.
And so tell the people what.
So guys,
what
if
app
you're
hot
looking
on.
if you want to be able to easily track spending in a way that can be done quickly but is helpful and informative, tracks your investments, it's called Copilot.
There you go.
And if you want to try it, I can send you a code for 2 free months. Anyone I think can try it for a month before they're charged. There is an annual fee after that, but it is.
By the way, this segment is sponsored by.
No,
Copilot.
it's not. Stop it. Stop.
No, it's not.
We
not
get your
sponsored.
finances in order.
It's the opposite of sponsoring. You're paying to use it.
But it's been really, I think, for an area that we didn't always feel like we were doing all we could to maximize our income and investments or whatever. We were just like, oh, we're doing the best we can. It's really brought clarity and efficiency. And don't you think?
Absolutely.
Am I overselling this?
No. I think we're hot on it, and I think it's not trendy. I think it's genuinely helpful.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's something that is early returns are really good.
Yeah.
Already.
Yep. So if you want to try it, reach out. I'll send you a code. You can try it free for 2 months.
Cool.
That's it. I'm hot on Copilot.
All right. Hey, before we go, just a heads up. The article for next week, if you want to give it a quick read, is entitled Family Dinners, Key to Children's Health. That's pointofview.net.
What is that?
I don't know. I don't know. Some random
Pointofview.net.
I don't know. I came across this,
Okay.
and it was kind of interesting. So it was originally a Wall Street Journal article,
Okay.
but I think we found that free version on pointofview.net. So we'll post that up.
It's not even a .com.
I know, but I think we'll post that up. But give that a read, and then we'll have discussion about it next time.
All right. Happy New Year, everyone. If you have any articles that you've come across that would be an interesting and fun discussion, send them our way. And
Yeah. All right. Any questions or concerns about our marriage? Just go ahead and reach out.
to Jesse
Jesse at Fellowship.
Jesse at fellowshipdenver.org.
or Renee at fellowshipdenver.org.
Or Dave at fellowshipdenver.org.
All right, everybody local, stay warm this weekend.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.